So yeah, this is the Breaker Boo 1 cycle tutorial. There's already a tutorial for this by Zircon. But that one covers the other strat. I'm gonna cover my strat in this one. Because Zircon's strat, well, how he does it is like he does these things that we refer to now as wall strat. Whereas my method and a method used by Snap and some other runners is referred as drag strat, basically. Because Zircon's method kind of looks like this, whereas my method looks like this. That makes sense. The idea is it's the same thing. What you want to do is you want to be kind of like below the boo, like south of the boo. And then you R-pump the boo. Then the boo cackle, the sound that it makes, there's two parts to it. There's the low pitch part and the high pitch part. Like it's the, as Zircon explained in his tutorial, you can like listen to the cackle with the call being the second part. That's the part when you hear that is when you want to drag the boo back. With that, when that part of the cackle hits is when you can pull the boo back. So that is when you want to start dragging it back. And then what you can do is you use the, like, you drag it back, and then as soon as like the 10 health is over, you R-pump, and then use the cap part, like the first part, to position yourself like kind of below the boo again. You get like this pattern of like going a tiny bit further right every time, but moving left in the first part. So I'll explain how that, I'll show how that looks real quick. Cackle, 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 cackle. Okay, I messed it up there because I'm talking. This is hard to do, but you get the idea. That was just to show up how you do it, how you time it. That was not a good example of a breaker boo, but I hope you get the idea of the timing thing. Just gonna not grab fire, it's not important. We're practicing this. Then the next important thing is how far can you drag back? Well, this is one of those things that I cannot really explain. You just have to get a feel for it. Generally, you can just move back kind of like this distance. It's like kind of far, but not that far. And naturally, the boo, you will be good if you don't pull too far. If you pull too far, the boo will double cackle. You want to be like as close to the boo as possible when you R-pump. Basically, when you R-pump again. Because, like, you want to be not that as close that you're, like, right underneath it. But you want to be at least close to the boo. You can, like... You want to move around as little as possible while doing the R-pump. You want to kind of, like... stand still and then move back, if that makes sense. You can reposition, like, in the cap part. As I just showed in my example, but... yeah, okay, so... another important part is the usage of the C-stick. One cue that is really helpful is you see like how when I press up the camera it kind of goes here. When I look down the camera goes towards here. Now it looks straight forward, it looks like this. When you have this camera angle, it means that the boo is at the, like, basically the perfect height. Because if it's too low, it's too hard to drag. If it's too high, it'll do double cackle. Want it to kind of be in between. So when you get this camera, when the camera switches to this, you know two things. You know you are too close to the boo, and that the boo is too high up. And when you have this camera, it doesn't really happen that often, but then you basically have to drag it up. And how you do that is with the C-stick. So you know the audio cue I just said? What you want to do is, in the movement of moving back, what you can do to get some extra distance and drag the boo up and down, like kind of controlling the height of the boo, you tap C up when the cool part plays. Like you hold C up for the duration of that and let go before you R pump again. Don't hold it the entire time, that doesn't work, you will lose the boo. Don't hold anything on the C stick except for up and down. Don't move right or left, you will lose the boo if you do that. You don't need to drag it back. And stand below the boo, don't stand here. Then don't stand to the right of the boo, because then if you try to use the C stick thing, you'll just drag it down without it coming right. From my experience. You want to be kind of like right down. So if the boo goes too high, if you're starting to get this camera angle, preferably you want to avoid getting that camera angle at all. But what you do is you move back, and while you're moving back you tap C up. Just a tiny bit, like... That makes sense. And then you do that until it's at the perfect height, then you can just use whatever you want. Like when it starts to go lower, I'll typically use C down to get a bit extra distance. You don't have to do that. You can do it though. That should cover it about for this boo. With that information you should be able to figure out what is wrong. Obviously it takes a lot of practice and getting used to. Just watching this tutorial will probably not make you perfect at one cycling this boo. It takes a lot of practice with exactly how far you move. It's just the muscle memory thing, and you have to kind of figure that out on your own. Important part is like when the boo goes too high, tap C up and move like a bit more south instead of just right. Don't only move right, like move a bit down as well, like south into the room while tapping C up. Like kind of down right instead of right. That works. One tiny more thing for this specific boo. If you happen to run out of cackles, you follow the boo to this side. Here. What you can do, for example, if the boo goes down like this, and you for sure you're not gonna make it without the boo switching direction, what you can do is to R pump and hope it goes the other way, so that you can get a tiny bit extra health off. That's only like for saving it when you cannot do it. I'll show an example like of the general breaker boo. See how the camera is kind of moving, not up? Okay, I filled it there. That was because I didn't drag back enough on that last one. I'm trying to get an example of what I would do if the boo goes too high up. See, it starts to go higher up, so what I do is I just tap C down. That was an example of what I just mentioned. Like, I didn't drag back enough again. So I R pumped there. I knew I wasn't gonna make it without R pumping. I hoped it changed direction. It didn't, because of my position, I suppose. But yeah, I'm gonna try to actually get the one cycle now without like focusing on some other stuff. Obviously from the middle it's the hardest spot. From the right middle, the left middle and the top barrel are different. I'll get it from here. That's a bit easier because it's more to the right, but... See how I drag it down? When it spawns high up like that in the middle, you want to be already dragging it down on the first cackle. That's really important. Like when the boost spawns in the middle high, you just drag it back right away. One tiny more tip. When you're doing this method, what I'd like to do is I drag the boo out on the first cackle, and then as soon as it gets close enough to here and it hits like a number that's a multiple of 10, I start R pumping. That way it's really easy to time the R pumps because you just time every 10 health. So like don't pump on like 283. Wait until it hits 280 and then pump. That might make it a bit easier to time the R pumps. And obviously in all of this you want to keep in mind to keep the time between letting go of R and repressing it. You want to keep that as short as possible. And now, does this trick only help with Breaker Boo? No. There's a ton of situations in the game. In high level play, obviously when you're new to this game you won't notice the difference that much, but there's a lot of optimizations or strategies that revolve around boo dragging. Good examples being the billiard save and quit, the laundry route tech skip, the kitchen tech skip, and just generally dragging boos as a way to optimize movement. A good example is storage boo. Like I drag it back to the door so I can manipulate the animation and still get all the way to the door. And you can also use it as a backup, for example, if you have a bad Vangour boo. You can save it with drag. And that is the Breaker Boo 1 cycle / boo dragging tutorial. I don't know why my voice gets so weird at the end.